All right, I'd like to call to order the meeting for the Ad Hoc Antique Streetlight Citizens Advisory Panel. It is 5:30 p.m. on Thursday, November the 10th, 2022. Let's go ahead and start with roll call. Susan Cox. Here. Andrea. Janice.
Here.
Eric. Work. Esther.
Present.
Present.
Jamie. John.
Here.
Richard.
Here. Here.
And Ian. All right, perfect. All right, with that said, we'll go ahead and start with public comment. Go ahead and open the public comment section. Does anybody in the public would like to speak and have any thoughts to share with the advisory panel on behalf or as it relates to the Ad-Hoc Streetlight Committee's business?
We've received no public comment cards and no requests via the Zoom attendees to give public comment at this time.
Perfect. In that case, I'll close public comment and we'll move on to the comments from the city manager. Do we have Mr. Raymond on Zoom or on the line?
We have the assistant city manager here with no comments to make at this time.
Perfect. We'll go ahead and close the comments from city manager section and we'll go on to our discussion items. Item number 1, Wilden's presentation on the assessment process. So we'll go ahead and I would assume move it over to Stacy. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Would you like me to share screen to pull up the presentation, or is somebody over there going to be pulling up the presentation?
Is that your presentation first slide right there? Okay,
Yeah,
then
that's
that's the
it.
one that we received. Just let me know by saying next slide and I'd be happy to forward that.
Okay, we'll do so. All right, so I'll get started. Good evening, everybody. My name is Sabina, and I'm with Wildan Financial Services. Today, I'll be presenting the cost estimates for the proposed Glendora Antique Streetlights Assessment District, as well as briefly discussing Wildan's scope of services in regards to the assessment district. Also on the line with me is Stacy Reynolds, who will be assisting with answering questions. And on the note of questions, I would like to ask everyone to hold questions until the end of the presentation, where we are going to have a set Q&A. Next slide, please. Okay, so just a brief overview. Wildan will provide consulting services specific to the proposed formation of the Antique Streetlights Assessment District to create a revenue stream to install and maintain antique streetlights within the city of Glendora. In this presentation, we will discuss the district formation process, discuss the district budget, explain the EVU scenarios and calculation, and provide examples of annual assessments. Next slide, please. So just briefly going over the assessment district formation process, the tasks associated with the formation of a 1972 Act district includes preparing the benefit assessment analysis, developing parcel database and district diagrams, a review of benefits, improvements, and assessment analysis, preparing proposed budgets and assessment, which is what we're going to go into in a couple of slides here, as well as assisting with community outreach meetings, developing and mailing informational piece, assisting with property owner workshops, and preparing the engineer's report, staff reports, resolutions, and ballots. Next slide, please. Okay, so just really quickly going over the antique streetlights budget. So these are the costs that will occur in order to install and maintain the streetlights on an annual basis. So our first line item you'll see is the streetlight maintenance energy. So this is, any maintenance, inspection, miscellaneous repairs, service calls, or electricity charges. And then we move on to our administration costs. So professional services is Wildan, that's us, city services, and then there's also a county administration fee. There's also going to be incidental expenses. So for example, the operational reserve collection. So this is just money that's there to pay for upfront costs until the city has collected money on the tax roll for the district. Then there's streetlight capital, CIP, This is to fund any major item that breaks down. For example, if a pole were to break down. And then we have our rehabilitation renovation loan. So this would be the annual payment for the $700,000 loan with a 1.5% interest rate over 20 years. And then lastly, there's the streetlight general benefit contribution. So this is just a portion of the lights that kind of provide like a general benefit to the public at the large. And so this will not be assessed to the parcels in the district, but the city will be funding this. And then our balance to levy is our total annual cost to maintain the district. Next slide, please. Okay, so before we go into kind of the assessment calculations, I'd like to describe the land use classifications. So the following table describes the land use classes that are part of the district. And we have single family residence, multifamily residence, commercial parcels, and park and vacant parcels. So for example, a single family residence is a 1-unit single family home. A multifamily residence is a 2 to 4 unit multifamily home. Commercial parcels are things like apartment complexes, churches, medical offices, businesses, recreational parcels, retail sales, parking lots, and then park and vacant is kind of self-explanatory. Next slide, please. Okay, so our big question, how is the annual assessment per parcel calculated? Next slide, please. Okay, so here we go into the equivalent benefit unit, the EBU assignment scenarios. So in order to calculate the annual assessment for a parcel in each land use class, we multiply the annual assessment rate by the parcel's assigned EBU. And in this case, we have two scenarios or two methodologies for how the EBUs are assigned. And for the first one, we have single family residence and multifamily residence being two separate categories. So for example, a single family residence is a 1-unit property with an assignment of 1 EBU per unit, while a multifamily residence is to be assessed per unit with an assignment of 1 EBU per unit. So for example, if there's one multifamily residence parcel with 3 units, it would be assessed with an assignment of 3 EBUs. And this is due to the nature of the benefit from the streetlights as a local benefit to the parcels, rather than a general benefit to the community. And then we have scenario 2. So in this methodology, we combined the single family residence and the multifamily residence under one residential umbrella category. So single family residence and multifamily residence are combined, and each residential parcel, whether it be single family or multifamily, is assigned 1 EBU. This assumes that all residential parcels benefit from the streetlights are the same, as the acreages of the two land use classes are similar. Next slide, please. Okay, so here we go into calculating and determining what the assessment rate would be per EBU with both of these different scenarios. So at the very top, you'll see that we pulled over the balance to levy from the budget. So that's the $83,506. And we use that because the assessment rate is calculated by dividing that balance to levy by the total EBUs. Scenario 1, where we separate the single family residence and the multifamily residence, we have a total EBU of 427.0332, which gives us a maximum assessment rate per EBU of $195 approximately. You'll see in scenario 2 where single family residence and multifamily residence are combined under our residential category, the total EBUs are a lot lower, so almost by 100. And that's because we have those multifamily are now only assessed as 1 unit. They're no longer, assessed by their multiple units. And so that brings down our EBUs, which results in a higher assessment rate. And then if you want to break it down into a monthly payment, our scenario 1 equates to $16.29 per month, while scenario 2 equates to $21.34 per month. Next slide, please. Okay, so just showing a couple of examples of how this would be calculated. For example, scenario one, or example one is taking a multifamily residence with 2 units is assigned 2 EBUs. The annual assessment rate is calculated as 2 times 195, which is the annual assessment rate. And then that gives us an annual charge on this parcel of $391. On that same line, for example, a commercial parcel with an acreage of 0.378 is assigned the 1.89 EBUs, and that's calculated from taking the acreage, the 0.378, and multiplying it by 5, following that methodology up above. And so taking that 1.89 EBUs and multiplying it by the assessment rate of 195 gives us an annual assessment on this commercial parcel of $369 a year. And then we have scenario 2, example 1. So residential is assigned 1 EBU. The annual assessment is calculated as 1 EBU times the assessment rate of $256. And so this will be, whether it be a multi-family home or a single family, it will be just 1 EBU flat multiplied by the assessment rate. So then this parcel, whether it be single family, multifamily, will be assessed $256 a year. And same goes for the commercial parcel with the 0.378 acres. It's assigned, once again, 1.89 EBUs, same calculation. And the annual assessment for this parcel is calculated as 1.89 EBUs times that assessment rate of $256 gives it an annual charge of $484 approximately. And then I would also like to note on this page that a single family dwelling is used as the quantifiable measure for all property. So the average acre for a single family home is 0.2 acres. Therefore, on 1 acre of commercial land, it is possible to fit 5 single family dwellings, which equates to 5 EBUs. Vacant property receives less benefit as there is no structure on the property. So this land use classification is assigned 0.2 per acre, which is the average single family acreage. Next slide, please. Okay, and that brings up to our questions. Does anybody have any questions for me and Stacy to answer?
So I'd like to start with public comments first before we go to our panel, if that's okay.
Yes.
Any questions from the public that, if you do, please ask them now.
No comments have been received, no questions via Zoom participants.
All right, thank you. Then I'll close public comment for this section and go ahead and move it over to our panel. Any questions for Sabina?
I have a question. So these numbers that you're giving us, these yearly cost scenarios, are just for maintenance, or is this to actually put towards the money that we have left over that we're going to owe? I mean, is this the whole lump sum that the residents are going to expect to be paid? Or is this just maintenance?
This is the whole sum, because you'll see the loan is included in this budget. So it's everything that the residents are going to be expected to be paid. There's no extra.
So just to mention that I caught it too when I was looking at it because I had the same question. They call it rehabilitation. Is that correct, Sabina?
Yeah, that's correct.
We haven't even got our bids back yet of using the old lights to the new lights, and we're having an example of something that we don't even know yet what the cost is. Cost from the rebuilding the old lights compared to the new lights. We have examples and we don't even know those numbers yet.
Is that a question for
Why are we
Sabina?
skipping so far ahead without getting our numbers?
Is that a question for Sabina or who's the question for, John?
I'll answer that. We will discuss the bidding process in the next item, but in order to provide the numbers for you to begin discussing, we use the engineer's opinion of cost, so we could begin the discussion on the fee. But when we do receive the final cost from the contractor in the rebid, then we will have to redo these numbers. And we expect them to be similar if it is similar to the estimate.
Just seems like we're moving ahead before I don't like going this way, in my opinion.
Yeah, so the way I look at it too is, Alexis, I think what we're seeing here is that would be if there's no other grants or no other funding coming into it, right? Because that 40,000 could potentially be lower. And I did some quick calculations that if there is any other funds that's being looked at, it could be significantly lower. And we just don't know that because we don't have that foresight, correct? Because we're looking at forming the district before anything else, or getting agreement on forming a potential district.
Can you repeat that question? Sorry.
Yeah, so when I'm looking at this, I'll put it simpler. This is worst case scenario.
This is the scenario with our engineer's opinion of cost.
So if we find more money, it can only get better.
Or on the flip side, if contractors decide their materials are getting too expensive from what we previously estimated, it could increase in cost as well. So this is the starting point, so you guys can get a range of what it will be. And then we'll find out when we have the bids turn to rebid.
And let me just add. Our goal had been to have the actual numbers of the bid opening for this meeting. We did not receive any bids, and we're going to talk about that. We will have those in a month or so. Anyway, Alexis will bring that up. But so this was our best case of the information that we could provide you tonight.
So just so I have it right, this is the original engineering bid that you showed us the very first day. So this does not include refurbishing it. This actually is the costs that are more likely replacing the lights. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Typically, and to kind of piggyback on what Patrick said, I mean, I would assume that this engineer's estimate is more conservative, higher, than lower, correct? And it'll kind of cover.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll cover like the word, this would be the worst case scenario because it is conservative and we're looking for that we might be a potential decrease slight. So it wouldn't go over.
Right. Just in general, in a public bidding process, when we provide engineer's estimate, ideally it's right in the middle of the bids that you get. So you always have the low bid and the high bid, and usually the estimate is right kind of in the middle of that.
One more thing, just since we're on this subject, the two scenarios that combine the residential, the multifamily and the single family. My question is why?
That would be a question, I think, for Wildan possibly, or for.
I mean, somebody thought maybe we should do this, so what drove that?
We had one scenario, which was splitting the multifamily and the residential units. Then we looked at the acreage of both and found that we should present a scenario 2, since the acreage was so similar between a single family and a multifamily home. Just for you guys to have an idea and get a full picture of the acreage for both properties. And we wanted to make sure that we were distributing a fair scenario for both instances. In most cases, and in our line of work, we generally do charge the multifamily a little more, but generally multifamily properties are a little larger than the single family properties. This is not the case with this, and it's just the way that they were built. So we decided to put a scenario 2 out there.
I have a question on that. So the light that is in front of my units doesn't go an acre back or a half acre back, or it only lights the street sidewalk, which my units are the same size as a residential property. So why would I pay more?
And that's why we did scenario 2. Once I looked at the acreage and I discussed it with the city, we decided to throw in there scenario 2 in there. The first scenario was just based on the industry standards. The second scenario is based on the actual acreage of each of the units.
Any other questions for Wilden?
I guess it's a question slash comment. One of our repeated concerns is the residents agreeing to pay that difference in cost in addition to the ongoing maintenance, and it's something that we've continued to bring up. Are there other forms of grant money or funds within the city or anything like that? So do we have a scenario that includes just the ongoing maintenance and not the loan for the difference in cost?
We do have that. That's not part of the presentation tonight, so I'm not sure how the city wants to move forward with that, but we do have that numbers, and we'll be more than happy to just to provide that to the city.
I mean, for part of that, if you really wanted to look into that, you would go to the first budget scenario page where it shows the loan. You would take out the $40,000 amount and subtract it basically from the total, and then divide it by the equivalent billing units, and that would give you your amount if there were no loan. So either scenario, it's scenario 1 and scenario 2. I guess, yeah. Can we go back just to the slide? I think it'll just make it clearer. Keep going one more.
I think her question, part of her question was, we asked the last meeting, was there any other grant money? Did you guys try to find any other money for this project?
So our comment, I think, has been kind of all along, it's a unique project. So there's not a lot of grant money out there that's specific to antique streetlights. So we've got our $1.5 million, and it's more of it's an earmark in a budget. It's in the congressional budget. It's not really a grant per se. So it's slightly different in that regard. And kind of back to the loan on this slide, if you take out the rehabilitation line, it drops the total balance to levy by about $40,000, right? So you would take that amount over to the EBU slides, and that's how you'd get your amount without, if there were no loan, because whatever.
And does that loan amount, does that have an interest rate on it?
The assumed,
Is that a grant? Was it on there 1.5?
the assumed interest rate right now is 1.5. So that's based on our,
Okay, I like that one.
our LAIF rate, which is the local investment fund that we can get as being a city.
And once over the 20-year period, once it's paid off, conceivably our taxes then go down?
They could, it would likely be marginally, would be my guess, just because there'll be a CPI increase over those 20 years as costs continue to increase. So that's where it wouldn't be more, but by the time we go over 20 years, it could be exactly what we quoted you today based on overall the CPI increases.
I had a question. And the CPI was based on 20-year period or throughout the entire 20 years?
The loan, yeah, the loan was based on a 20-year term.
20-year term.
Yeah.
If it's paid in advance, if it for any reason is the CPI drop off, or it continues just for the maintenance?
CPI would continue for the maintenance. Yeah. So, all right.
Okay, any other questions? Well done. Okay, we'll go ahead to item number 2 on the agenda. If there's no other questions, okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sabina. Thank you, Stacy.
Bye-bye.
So item number 2 is the bid construction update. So in this case, I'll go ahead and invite Public Works Director Suite to give a report. I was just going to say,
I'm gonna go ahead
Allison,
and turn it
so
over to
official.
Alexis Escobar, project manager.
Go ahead.
Give me the next slide, please. Thank you. We advertised the project early in October. Bids were due October 25th at 10 a.m. We did not receive any bids. We advertised the project for about 2.5 or so weeks. We did rebid the project, so advertising began again today, and we will open up bids on December 8th. we did have one interested bidder in the first bid period, but they simply ran out of time. There's a lot of competition out there for conduits and electrical work. Specifically, there's a big Caltrans project statewide. It's something about 10,000 miles or something like that of conduit, which it really has all these electrical guys wrapped up. So people they just didn't have the time to finish their bid. Are there any questions?
Okay, I'd like to go ahead and open it up for the public first for any questions.
So public comment is taken at the beginning of the meeting only, not per section. So we've covered that already.
Oh, we're doing this per section.
Per section.
It's per
here.
section.
Wonderful. Let's start that over again.
Following my guidelines here.
Sorry, I apologize. I don't see that any emails have been received for public comment, or any requests via the Zoom participants to give public comment. No cards have been submitted.
Thank
Thank
you. So I'll go ahead and bring it back to the panel for any questions. Any questions for Public Works?
Have we adjusted, sure, have we adjusted our entire timeline to match this, or we've opened the bids again, but we still have the same timeline?
We opened bids on October 25th, which means that's the deadline day for contractors to submit their bid, but there were no bids to open. So the advertisement period begins today, meaning if you go on the city website to the bid RFP opportunities, you'll see the antique streetlights project is there. So all the contractors can see it now, and they have until December 8th to submit their bid.
Correct, but what about our timeline for presenting to city council and getting information to the community as well as voting?
That's the same. Yeah, that will remain the same.
And that can, go ahead, Moises.
I'll take that one on. Because we did not receive any successful responsive bidders, it's likely that we'll have to delay the commission's schedule a little bit to accommodate for that. That's okay. As we've shared with you in the previous meeting, kind of the longer timeline of how things would fall in place. So we would adjust that schedule to the extent that we can so that we still meet some of those other deadlines.
Thank you. Really good questions. Well, any other questions as it relates to the bid construction update? And I will say, I did get a call from somebody that wanted to put a bid in, and we were able to route them to both of you, I believe. So hopefully they got the new date. All right.
I have a question. So, excuse me, so if somebody wanted a bid but doesn't know, I mean, I'm confused. Where'd you advertise for this? Is this is it just a city thing or?
So we use a website called Quest CDN, which many contractors have an account for that. Quest CDN. So the first step in a public bid is we advertise it in a newspaper.
Mhm.
So we do that 2 weeks in a row, and then it's open on Quest CDN. And from there there are other like plan rooms. A plan room is just companies that advertise different projects for different cities or even private projects. So there are other plan rooms that do download these and share them on their plan rooms. And I also reached out to a couple different contractors, alerting them that there's this bid out. So it's public, it's out there, it's on the internet.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to add exactly what Alexis said. Following the conclusion of the first bid period, I know Alexis and Allison were calling everyone who had at least looked at the bid package or downloaded the bid package to ask them questions as to why they may or may not have submitted. And subsequent to that have also been reaching out to a variety of other contractors to make them aware that this is out there. So our expectation is, with, fingers crossed, that we'll get some response this next time around.
You think the only reason nobody bid on it is because they didn't have time?
I talked to a contractor personally, and that's what he said.
Yeah.
What were the major concerns for those that were called you and answered questions about the bidding? And was there any issues about the budgets
No,
or?
I asked him. He said he just ran out of time. He was working on his bid. Deadline came and he didn't finish. It's simple as that.
What do you didn't have time then? I mean, it must be done now, right? So you think you're gonna get more, you think you'll have any responses? What happens if you don't get any bids?
Oh, we could of course rebid again, but this contractor is interested in bidding again. They spoke to me yesterday and I told him it's open
If
today.
I know somebody that wants to bid it, I just
You
direct
know-
them to this website or can I have them call you?
So all your contractors that you know, let them know of Quest CDN, let them know of the city website. Anybody can bid with a proper license and follow the requirements on the spec to submit their bonds and all that stuff.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Any other questions as it relates to section 2? Okay, moving on to the section number 3, antique streetlights 1 pager. Public Works Director Sweet to give a report. All yours.
Oh, okay, good evening. All right, can I have the next slide, please? So from the last meeting, we made some adjustments to the fact sheet. And they include off to the right, I know there was some concern about discussion of the, are getting too technical. And so we changed the right-hand side to the historical timeline. And then also on the back, I don't think you can see up there, but on the bottom of the page, we simplified the note that says, please note that property owners within the proposed district do not currently pay a streetlight assessment and are not part of the city streetlight assessment district. So those are the major changes that we made on this fact sheet. I do know that someone proposed some additional changes. So can leave it up for any discussion or any edits you still have concerns about.
Just a comment that I'm not sure we want to advertise how many times it's failed.
All right, so, and just confirm script. Anybody in the public that would like to comment on this section?
No requests via the Zoom participants, and I've just checked the inbox, no via email as well.
Thank you. Yes, and I like that question, and I think we should adhere to that. Probably gives us a more greater rate of success, right, at the end of the day. Any further questions as it relates to the 1 pager? Is everybody good with this?
Is there anything we could learn from the other reasons it failed? I wasn't part of all that, so I don't know. Was it lack of advertisement or too
Yes.
much money we were asking people to pay? I remember we got a bill, someone said like $3,000. It's like, I like light, but not that much.
Yeah, I remember when I moved in 2007, I got something like that in the
Yeah.
mail. I think here's where I kind of deducted it down because we've talked a little bit about this in subsequent meetings. Lack of information across the board, no communication, and that's part of what we're trying to do here is how do we ask all the right questions, get all the right information, and then get it out to everybody.
And deliver the message appropriately so people understand. I think it was a lack of understanding, you know, and I said, and I was guilty of it. And as I sit here today, I have a better understanding and it makes sense more to me now than it did back then, because it was just like, here's a number and you're going to pay it. And we're like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was we just weren't fully, made aware of all the intricacies like we are here.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Without the information, I'm like, hold on a second. I got to pay for these lights. What's going on here now?
Yeah.
But now I want to pay for a light if there's one put in front of my house.
So I want to actually link into that. So, well, I think we might need to add a few more up that block. I agree.
Wait, don't you guys live next door to each other?
So I just wanted to add to that really quickly, and I'm sure Esther talked about this in the last meeting, and I apologize, I wasn't part of that. But we did go and surveyed a little bit, kind of ad hoc survey, and walked down the street, about 10 residences, if you will. And it wasn't like, hey, here's what's going to happen, but we explained it. We asked questions and we gave them all the answers, and everybody afterwards said, listen, you know what, this is more than I ever knew about or wanted to know about it, but I feel so much more comfortable. And we said, well, and Esther said this, so if I'm repeating, sorry. But we said, what do you want to pay? Like 300, 200, 100? And most said, no, we're good with 300. We get it. We understand it. We know now what you're doing, and it's not a mystery anymore. And I think the last two times, honestly, it was a big mystery. Like, I don't know what they're doing, why they're doing it, and I just know I got a bill to pay, which.
Yeah, I would agree.
Well, that's the perception you make. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think the comparison between the assessment, the streetlight assessment district was also a concern with some of the neighbors. They're wondering how come the other district pays more than the other one than the proposed antique streetlight assessment. So I think disclosing that, maybe some just comparisons and explaining why will make things a lot easier. They were concerned about the assessments and the CPI associated with the assessment district. And that's, I think, once we clear those doubts and concerns, I think people will feel more positive about the whole antique streetlight district.
Yeah. Yep. So as it relates to the pamphlet, and kind of what we just talked about, do we feel that it at least approaches like taking that mystique out a little bit? Is everybody good with that? Okay.
Is this what you recommend, or we're gonna send out to residents?
That is,
They can scan the barcode and it's on the city's website.
and then it should have the
Information.
FAQs that we talked about on there. That's where they can access that. Yep.
I had a question about the historical timeline. I think this one right here, I'm showing up, I'm raising my, is this the final, or we're going to distribute to the, because I think someone else mentioned it as far as the many times it's failed. I don't think that's the best message to send to the public.
This is not the final. This is up for we're bringing it before you as a draft one more time. And it's what you guys want on it.
Proposed fails. Does everybody think we should take that?
Honestly,
I think we
happened
should.
I agree.
I think we should too.
Negative.
I agree.
I think so too. I'm looking at the one on there, which is different than the one in the package. So I was like, wait a minute, now I see the timeline. Yeah,
Oh.
I would agree. I mean, that's sending an interesting message and exactly.
Rather,
Yeah.
I'd rather get them excited than to show, oh, this is failed. Let's just fail it again. Do we have to take a vote on that? Or are you guys good?
I don't know if we officially have to vote on it, but we could, so we can account for it.
Yeah, they're just taking your notes, your direction at this
Correct,
point.
that's
Yeah.
what I thought. All right.
So I'll just clarify, if I'm looking at this historic timeline and we talk about the 1911 and the 1914, we want to keep that, the dates they were installed, but 2004 when they were decommissioned, and then go down to our current effort underway and get rid of the 2005 to 2008. Those are the three that.
So I'll just speak for myself. I don't mind those timelines, but I'm trying to squint to read what it says here. I kind of like the whole, there's some talk about the maintenance assessment district, the maintenance district rules.
Yeah, it gives them
It
information.
gives, because I'll be honest with you, half the people were like, what is a special ed district? What does that mean? Why me? Like, that is part, and a lot of folks don't understand that if you get a benefit from something, i.e. light or the city's doing, the median or whatever it is. I mean, the person that lives there gets the benefit. And at the end of the day, that is within the district. So there's the charge that comes back. And after we explained it, like, got it. Everybody got it. So I like that, but that's just my personal opinion.
More than what's under balloting? You want more information than what's under balloting right now?
I'm referring to the actual pamphlet that's on the screen right now to the left.
Mhm.
The timeline is what I have here.
They don't
in
have
the
a
package.
timeline on the one that's.
What's
Don't
in
have
front
it
of
on the
us
screen.
is different than
They're
what's
talking
on the
about
screen.
assessment districts.
Yeah, these are two different.
If
than
I
what's
may
on
interject,
screen.
what's on the screen was actually the first version of the antique streetlight handout that we created.
Thank you. I
Um,
like that better.
Yes. So we presented this to you at the previous meeting, gathered a lot of feedback. Actually, there was some confusion about whether or not to include the language relative to the district. So we removed it in favor of the historical timeline to be able to share with residents that, yes, in fact, they are turned off. They were turned off for a reason. We've tried having this conversation with the community a few times. It has not gone well, or at least according to plan at those particular moments in time, but that there has been a concerted effort on three separate occasions previous to this one to try and turn them back on. So as much feedback as you guys can provide to us, the better. We'll try to refine this even further. As Mr. Bonner mentioned, we are including a QR code in whatever we produce because we want to kick people back to the website that Public Works staff has worked very diligently to prepare, that has a whole lot more historical information, that actually has copies of all of these agendas and staff reports, so that folks that want to peruse and learn more about the antique streetlight project can do that.
So I missed it, so sorry for derailing it, but I'm just giving you my thoughts on it.
No, no.
Either way. My big thing is like, and I'm a little bit in sales, I guess, so when you put the word failed, I mean, that's a super negative word that's never gonna get good results, so
Did not
that's what I
pass.
gravitated to.
Did not pass is better than fail.
I mean, you can reword it and not say fail. I mean, just if you want to keep that in there, just reword or, I mean, really, it started at 2004, it got decommissioned because it was a safety concern.
That's correct.
And then jumping into 2022, we got to get this done because it's important to our city and it looks great. Like the pictures that Ian shared today of the historic pictures, I like the globes.
Yeah.
I think it looks awesome. It's part of our city.
So here's, and I wasn't part of the conversation. I don't want to take us backwards. So if everybody said, hey, we want a timeline, I'm good with it. Kind of the way Eric kind of framed it up.
I like the timeline also. Just
Yeah.
take that verbiage out and put some other verbiage in.
Okay, we can do that.
I have a question I
agree.
think you probably will answer. Every time I talk to somebody, the first question is, well, why did they turn them off?
They were not safe.
I know that.
There
Is there a
was,
better story than that?
Underground utilities are routed out.
yes,
You're gonna get electrocuted if you touch them.
yes, that's exactly
That's
correct.
why
Somebody
they're
get
shut out.
electrocuted?
They were-
No.
well, back in the thirties or whenever they were installed, there weren't no ground rods on
The
those. things.
10th, the 11th.
We understand that the wiring was high voltage wiring and
Mhm.
over time that decomposes and
So
exposes.
the wires is in the dirt? There's no conduit?
No, the conduit is rotted out.
Yeah.
They don't use PVC back in them days. They
No.
use metal.
They
Yeah,
would
but
just
metal
literally
has
put the
Metal,
rotted out.
last I checked, metal doesn't deteriorate over 100 years. It's got a longer
I
shelf
don't
life.
believe there's metal.
Are they
conduit.
cracked and broken? I just want to be able to speak intelligently when someone asks me the question, why are they off? It's a light.
We did do some potholing and at some spot locations, and there's areas where it is direct buried without any conduit, and then the conduit is a mess. It's decomposed or bent and
It's a-
broken and.
It's a better argument I have to them why they might have to shell out a couple $100.
But what started the
put wire in the
process of
dirt.
you turning them off? Did something happen? That's the question I keep getting. Did something happen or?
I heard a rumor that somebody got electrocuted.
I know nothing
I
about
don't
that.
know if it's true.
Well, it sounds like a great excuse to shut them off.
Yes.
I mean,
Nobody really knows the true
I
story.
imagine that somebody was called in to take a look at things because they weren't working and all that. And at that point, they deemed and they said, okay, there's a lot of stuff going on here. It's dangerous, corroded wires and whatever it might be. And at that point, they probably said we should shut these off before something happens because it was looked at by an electrical contractor and said, hey, this is a danger.
I mean, listen, if the chances, call it 2% that on Halloween, when all the kids are going down Glendale Avenue and they touch the light and they go psst, and they die, they should turn it off. I mean, that's kind of where it is. And I'm assuming somewhere it's in what, Public Works has done from a research perspective. And the other part of it, I guess, is kind of somewhat of a code. And, at a certain point, it has to be replaced similar to other things in our home. So I think the whole safety thing is probably fine with me. It sells me on it, but
And just in general, even in the very recent years, we have replaced, Edison has replaced a lot of other streetlights. So everything does have a life. In the engineering world, a lot of things are 50 to 75 years. So, yeah.
That's why we have water breakages. Same thing, same kind of piping. Water lines just bust.
Just another note on the one pager. I think it would be very helpful if we included antique streetlights decommissioned for electrical safety concerns or something along
Safety
those
concerns would be
lines.
fine.
Right.
straightforward.
I'm sorry, I'm just a little bit confused because in the beginning, I thought, Allison, that you said something about how the property owner's bullet point was added. So for some reason, I thought that the one that on the screen was the one that we had all submitted the information to you by the 29th, saying this is how we wanted the pamphlet to look. Because
Well,
we were,
and
were
Moises, I
asked-
think there's actually 3 versions.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
was a version and then, so that wording, I apologize, I can't
It-
see myself.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We
Um,
just have the one with,
No, you don't have to.
we have one of them. So I can't really see these ones on here, but I thought we were, as a panel, the goal was that we were gonna get your comments back within a week or so. And so I thought this was the one on the screen was the one that that we had already proposed the
Right, I mean,
changes.
this is the second version. This really was following the meeting and then, my apologies, I'm not exactly sure how this was an additional one. So internally, we will review these and let us know if we head towards this. If you'd like, I can read those out.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we weren't, as a panel, confusing the staff further by saying, well, parts of this and parts of this and which, because I thought this was the one that was actually the finalized version. So.
Right, well, let's have that discussion right now. And I apologize, I cannot read.
Says assessments
Can you?
fund the maintenance of streetlights.
Oh. Okay, can you hear, oops. All right, can you hear me? Okay, so the first comment is, or the first is assessments fund the maintenance of streetlights. Assessments fund the maintenance of streetlights. The second bullet point is only property owners who receive a benefit are assessed. In other words, if the properties are on a street with streetlights, they receive a benefit and are therefore assessed. The third is currently properties benefiting from non-historic streetlights pay an assessment fee as part of an existing streetlight district. And then the last one is property owners within the proposed historic streetlight district do not currently pay an assessment fee because there are no active streetlights. So yes, that is what we did talk about. And then I think what's happened is somebody wanted to add the timeline and then condensed those 4 bullet points into that comment that's on the second page. So if you like, we can leave this up and then also add the
Timeline?
Yeah.
Why don't we
Perfect.
just so where it says maintenance district rules, that little section, take that out? Can't read it all, but I'm assuming it's not going to add too much to the conversation.
I'm
And
sorry,
put
that last paragraph, the
Maintenance district rules.
rules,
Yeah.
okay.
And just do a timeline to the best of your ability that it's like a linear line. You have 1911, 1914, and then just put some, put the words under there, kind of what we said. Of course, leave the failed piece out. I think we're all in consensus. But have that there. But I do think, I honestly, when you read them, those bullet points make a lot of sense for me. When I first pick up this pamphlet, and right away dispels a lot of the myth, because this pamphlet will go out to people that might or might not even be involved in this. And then
agree.
you get a lot of
I agree
swirl.
with that.
Okay.
Is that possible?
We can also add, how many street light assessment districts are there in Glendora?
We have one. There's
One.
one district and it is all of the Edison owned or basically Edison owned lights.
And the word district is misleading, so it's not like a certain area. It's literally like if you go
Well-
to Glendora on the corner where there's lights, right? That's all in that one.
So the district outlined for all of the streetlights are all the parcels that have streetlights. So if there's a neighborhood with no streetlights, they are not part of the district. So the district goes in and out where there are streetlights and where there are not, but it is our whole city is they call it District
District
1.
one.
Yeah, yeah. Correct, yeah. And I don't know if Wildan can help, but yes, I would imagine that would be how they would call it.
So, and I don't know if Wilden is actually still on.
No, they aren't.
I think so.
No, they're no
Um,
longer on.
I like that question. I think maybe we table it, but bring it back to the pamphlet so we can get consensus on what we feel is going to be the right message. And then Public Works can move on to kind of produce it. Would that be acceptable? So I think I'm hearing, and you guys stop me at any moment. I'm hearing the bullet points on the right, top right stays. And then on the bottom, we take that section out and put the timeline there and make sure that we don't have anything around, no wordage that says failed
Failed,
in
okay.
any way.
No effort.
And I don't even know, and this is something that I throw out because I wasn't 100% sure. Do we want to just take those years out anyways? I think we said 1911, 14 installed, 04 turned off, and because of the safety reasons, however we want to word that. And then 2022 current effort underway. Is that kind of what we feel is like the best way to put that?
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't mind that.
Try to squeeze it all, take that stuff out, and I like that too.
Like a more.
Squeeze it all in if you can.
Okay, and I think I like the idea that you had mentioned possibly changing this and putting
Visual time.
a visual, yeah.
Yeah.
that's fine.
And with a little light.
With little lights as it goes along.
All right, so I,
Light for each,
A light on and a light
yeah.
off.
So I think that should give some good direction. And I think from what I'm hearing here, the comments, everybody is thumbs up on this. So I know we don't have to do an official vote, so I'll stay away from that to not make it more confusing. But with that said, I'd like to go ahead and move on to item number 4, if that's okay with the panel. Okay, so item number 4, sample A-frame yard and or lamppost sign. Again, Director Sweet, you might just well stand up here and stay standing. I'm not sure how else to say it.
okay, all right, may I have the next slide, please? So you had asked us to put some simple yard signs or things that could be put on the posts. And so these are 2 examples of what staff has come up with. And this one over on the left is saying, learn more about how to restore lighting in the proposed antique streetlight district. And I guess they're both saying the same thing, but looking a little bit different.
I like the light. I like
yeah.
the old light.
Agreed. I like the
agree.
one with the street light on it.
Really quickly,
Mhm.
and I might have missed this in the previous conversation. So these A-frames, who will receive that? People that live on the street, or how do we wanna, where do we put these A-frames or yard signs, I think, right?
Well, I know there were, go ahead.
The idea was to put them in our yards as well as any of our neighbors that would agree with us and would like to post them, as well as having some that we can zip tie onto the actual lights so
Like
that
when
when
they
people
have-
are out walking, they
When
see
have the
them.
Christmas lighting, they shut down the streets, they put those temporary no parking signs up. If we could do it like that have the city or somebody in Public Works or whatever zip tie those on some of the other lights? Or are we doing it?
We can have staff put them on.
Maybe we can have Boy Scouts do it.
But the ones that go in the yards, if you guys bring them to the next meeting, we'll all take ours home. I
Give
don't-
us a dozen each. We'll sneak it.
thing, we could actually go up and ask our neighbors. It's a reason to go up and knock on the door and have a conversation with
Yeah.
them, see if they want to put it in the yard.
And not only that, but really quickly, how awesome is it that, I mean, if you have have one of these signs in your yard, you're more than likely are gonna be pro or potentially voting for. It's a good way to kind of see and rally support across the board and maybe take people along in the story.
And I'd like to get these done ASAP before like we have Christmas holidays in downtown or whatever. If we could get these,
Well, I was just going to suggest, following tonight's meeting, we could start having them printed up and get them to you prior to next meeting. As quickly as we can inform you via email and then we could also have staff go out and put the ones on the poles themselves. I mean, there are 112 poles. Is there any thought? Do you want them on every pole? Would we do every other pole? Every pole.
but if you
Be
get the
happy.
ones that go in the yards, if you just send us emails, we can come in and pick them up.
Okay, and are you thinking each of you would like 12 or some 10 or 12?
I think 12 to start. and
That
then
gives us a reason to
Yeah.
talk to our neighbors too.
Yeah, I like that.
Did we ever figure out what we're going to do about the poles that are either missing or broken or the tops are cut off or? have we
Whatever
ever-
restoration or replacement, they will all be put back. They are all on the plans to be included. Even the ones that you can't see the foundation, if they're on there. So
Okay.
So bringing it back to the street sign, and I think the design, you want us to kind of give a thumbs up or down, correct? Which
Sure,
one?
yes.
Left or right?
yes.
So anybody for the left? Anybody for the right?
Yep.
Right.
All right.
I'm
So-
for the right. If I can just comment, it would be nice, and this is just me, the city of Glendora antique lights. I love it. I was just wondering if we could use a font that's a little more antique, and that's all.
Hmm.
All right, I will bring it to our media. Oh.
Let's not get tricky.
Yeah, I don't mean cursive. I definitely,
So here's the thought.
just a thought to have it a
Here's
little
the
more.
thought that
antique.
might meet in the middle ground. So the font that we use for the Glendora seal that says Glendora, that seems reasonably readable from the street. Is that what we can use? Would that be something that would Feel that, Boyd?
It's
Maybe
right
that's
there.
something to
It's on
play
your
with.
Mouse pad. See your font on the mouse pad? To your right?
Yeah, right here.
Perfect, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
behind you,
feel.
you said.
Something.
And it's actually on the slide too, but that's kind of
We-
what I was thinking, if we.
Could we add something? Could we add something to the sign saying something about be a part of history or help bring back your history to start
The
the
history.
buzz,
Ye-
keep the history?
Yeah, something like, you don't want to jumble it up too much though.
Yeah, you. the
Yeah.
I
challenge
mean,
is
right
to-
now it's perfect because you get drawn right to that antique light.
The more stuff you put on there, the more it distracts from.
Maybe in the
message, so.
barcode, where whatever information's on the barcode, we could put, keep the history.
What is going to be in the barcode?
That is our website for
Alright.
the Antique Street. Oh, go.
Okay, and I think it'd be a good idea downtown on either end where you enter the downtown little shopping district there. There's always advertisements for, events and stuff like that. It'd be great to do that on that, how you string them across. Something, if
That
we
was my
could,
question. Is there going to be any more advertisement other than these yard signs?
because everybody will see that. They
I'll-
drive in.
We have to be very careful
Yeah.
from the city's perspective, because we are only allowed to provide information and education. So anything that could be interpreted as advocating for or against this
Oh.
project would be problematic for us. So we have to be very careful about that.
And they're not gonna take down the Christmas parade
But what,
banner.
ultimately,
But the
and the
banners are not
stroll or any of
city-owned.
that.
that's also true.
So it's Andrews Inc. that would, and it's hard to get in there, but if you want to do that, that's a possibility.
The poles that the signs are on are city owned.
Got it, but I think he had the right to, but anyways, I think this is like
We can have that.
it doesn't bother me too much, but.
Well, with the Christmas stroll coming up, are we going to do any kind of like a tent with information? Just saying.
We,
go
we
here?
talked about that, but I didn't.
That illegal?
That's not on the agenda, I don't see.
It's public outreach efforts will be the next section. So if
Okay.
we can,
Yeah,
like,
we
let's
can, we
get back
can
to
have
this,
something there.
finish it
We'll
off and.
make sure that there's something on there.
So I think with some of the additions, and I'll leave it up to Public Works to figure that part out, but it's the right one that we all like. Don't distract too much. Want to send the message. Is that about right? Summed up good?
Perfect.
All right.
All right,
Perfect.
thank you.
And
Thank
I do
you.
want to recognize that if there's any public comment, because I forgot.
No, I don't see anybody with a raised hand icon. No emails have been received and no public comment cards.
Thank you. I've been in the seat a few times. All right, so item number 5 will be public outreach effort. I mean, it's getting a bit repetitive, but. Dr.
All right.
Fee?
Okay, on that one, I think what we would like is, I think as you just mentioned, the holiday stroll, so we can work on making sure that there's something, a tent out there. And, our hope would be that members that you would help be part of that effort. And if there's any other information you need from us, any flyers, that kind of thing, we can provide those also.
Properties are affected by, but not affected, but longer. That are in this district. I know you, that information somewhere, but.
It's 304.
304.
Yeah.
So we need 156 votes? Is it per household?
It said 50% on the thing I read, 50% minus 1. Let's not,
Because maybe that 300, I guess, parcels. The population.
For when it goes
That's
to vote? It's not a citywide?
We'll just make sure, I mean, I don't think the whole, I don't think they.
No, it's up to us.
Okay.
It's not valuing the whole city, it's just the
Right.
300 parcels.
and we asked about getting a light downtown for the stroll. Is that gonna happen? No?
There's one on.
Why can't they just?
So
give
if
us
there's a
one?
conversation to be had in the public, can we get a mic so people on Zoom can hear it? Because, and I can even hear it. So if there's a conversation going on, make sure we bring it back.
Okay, I don't have anything to add at the moment.
No, I heard some conversation going on there and I was just curious, so just saying. Okay. All right,
Question. When is the public stroll?
The 18th?
November 18th. Thank you.
Next week, next Friday. I think it's Friday night.
And then the parade, right? Strolls one night, parade's another night. Am I right?
Parade.
December.
Saturday morning, I believe.
That's in December 9th,
Yeah.
typically, or that date, like.
So
9th,
we're
10th,
just
11th.
gonna do the stroll. I think that's the best place to do it.
The parade, you're gonna have people watching the parade, right?
Yeah.
So The stroll you have to.
And nobody's gonna wanna be here Christmas morning or whatever.
The 18th, I saw the flyer.
Is there anything else that we could, what is the, not beer fest, but something like that? Do we have anything else going on?
Oh, the
that-
wine tasting stroll thing, that
tasting.
already happened. No, it was like June.
So I think then the, the holiday stroll would be the option we want to go for.
And are we all committed to go to that?
I'll be there.
Yes.
Work the booth, hand out flyers.
Count me in.
Okay.
What about a banner, any kind of banner? I know we can't do across the street, the one that's on the wire.
But one for a table.
Or I have, my office is right in the corner of downtown and I'm upstairs and I have a railing that I have no problem zip tying a nice 6-foot banner. Do I have to make that? Could the city provide?
But
some?
with the information we have here on these, we don't have anything
All
that,
right.
that stretches out.
I mean,
but
I could leave it
we
up
can-
till voting day or whatever, it's January. I could leave it up there from now till then.
Yeah,
Just to-
we can look and see if we can get something made.
Okay, I'm offering that if you guys want to do that.
Okay, yeah.
So we need somebody on our committee to come up with a time frame for the stroll and email all of us. Who wants to do that?
You.
Nope. I said it correctly, didn't
Co-chair.
I? Who would like to do that?
Co-chair.
Co-chair, give her something to do?
Yeah.
I think she's doing a lot. I think the guy started talking.
She
did
covered
something.
for you last time.
See, she covered for me last time.
We're just gonna meet downtown at a,
coordination for meeting downtown.
yeah, just a time frame of.
Probably
you know,
need
the
a
date and the
tent
time.
and a
You want to
table.
do like an easy up and a table and a little sign?
Did he have an
So
easy?
let me stop for, is this the intent of this section, for us? What would you like for us to kind of do this amongst ourselves or include the
Well, this is public
city, or
outreach.
how does it work? Gotcha. Okay, that's what I thought. So you would be able to play the support role, get an easy up, those type of things, right? That's what we need.
I don't even know what did you have? Do you have to register for the Christmas stroll to put an easy up on the middle of the street?
City owns the street.
Right, so yeah, you don't get ran over by the horse-drawn carriage. I don't know how that works.
So I think what we're hearing is we want to do the city stroll and we want to volunteer. I think the majority of the panel says, hey, we'll mend the booth, which is awesome. And I think maybe what we can do, Allison, is maybe you can help us do kind of the infrastructure around it, like the tent, and maybe we have some of the A signs we can put up, those type of things, or give away, whatever we want to do.
Mhm.
Is that fair to say? So we don't have to do that particular part? Just
Correct, yeah.
perfect. Okay.
Could we have a number of those flyers to hand out that night? Awesome.
Sounds to me that will work. Okay, everybody good with that?
Sure.
One more thing. Hang on, you confused me. Location, could we have it would everybody like to have it in the middle where the old train used to run through? Village Vault, right in the, in that the Goodwin building right there, in there. We'd like to be there. At least I would like.
I think we'll probably be.
I don't want to be
dependent
at
upon
the
what's
end
available.
or the other
Yeah, it
end in the
depends
middle.
Probably, because they usually have a choir right there and a tree and
Well, it's on the other side, Right.
In the street.
Yeah.
are we allowed?
That way
to put
everybody
something
has,
in the
it's
street?
closed.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, but do you have that horse-drawn carriage going up and down it all night?
To go coordinate with who's coordinating it to make sure and see where we can put it. So I will find the best location
Almost
I
like
can.
it takes a whole
keeping
nother
that in
meeting
mind.
to get this one going, huh?
Yeah, so I think that's fair. I think, the best location we can get. I mean, I
Sure.
know there's a lot of stuff going on that night and we can put it in front of the Christmas tree, but I don't think that's gonna be the best option, but we'll wait for your recommendation and trust that we'll get a good location. Is that
So you'll
fair?
give us a location when you figure it out.
Yes.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Anybody know that date off the top of their head?
18th, Friday, the 18th.
Any other questions on item
No,
number
November,
5?
it's next week.
A week from tomorrow.
Yeah.
I just had a question. When can we pick up the flyers? How soon could we do that? I would like to put them on my street. I'm fine with that. Self.
We don't have staff in the office tomorrow, but I would say early next week, as long as we can get it printed internally, or if we have to send things out, but we'll do it as quickly as we can.
Thank you.
Can we get them emailed to us so I could print a bunch at work too?
Yes.
All right. Any other comments, thoughts, suggestions on item number 5?
Who's gonna email our historical guy and ask him for that streetlight? Who has his email?
For,
We all do.
You're talking about Ian, right?
Ian.
He emailed.
Well, she said that the historical society has a light.
Well,
don't know if
yeah,
they'll let
it's-
us use
it's
it, but they have
hardwired
a
into-
light.
It's hardwired in the ground, I believe.
No,
That's
it's not.
right.
It's inside the,
that's
excuse me,
on inside.
inside the building, plugged in. They have a.
That
light.
would be awesome.
I don't know if they'll let us use it.
Maybe
That
one
would
to
be a
plug in?
question for Ian.
They made one that you can plug in and lights up?
Yeah,
What do you
that-
plug it into?
City has lights all, plugins.
I think they'll
for all
get
the
us an
vendors.
extension cord.
That'd be cool.
Well, is that something we can do? Is that, or,
No, we can do it.
We would have to ask the Historical Society through Ian, who's our representative to the Historical Society. I will send him an email.
I just want to be
Get the
mindful
light, we
that
would need electricity by our table.
We will,
They're in all the trees.
I have a generator.
I know
Right,
where
right,
they're at.
wait,
They're
wait,
all
wait,
lit
wait,
up
wait.
right now, actually.
and that-
yeah, let's.
Well, when we have a
no, no, no,
vendor,
no,
the
hold-
vendors all
John,
get to rent a plug.
Hold on,
So-
John. So the plugs there are there for the lights that light up the deal trees, but I say let Miss Sweet kind of do her work and find out if there's a plug or not. Love the fact that we can do the lights, so we'll reach out to the historic community, and I think, Andrea, you're gonna do that for us. Perfect. And then just want to know if there's any other regulations that is gonna prohibit us from bringing a live light out there. Just want to make sure there's no surprises. So if you can make sure you check we're good, then we're good.
I will.
Okay, thank you. So that sounds like good, we're good.
Just so I know there's electricity there for vendors when they rent booths. They number booths and they charge the vendor for that spot. So
We
the
should be
city
good.
wants to pay for their own electricity spot, they can do it, but we should be by a plug.
Yeah, we should be good.
If we can get the light. If not, you know what? I'll bring a generator. The city does, I have a generator.
All right.
I
Big,
have a
loud, noisy
question
one.
about the flyers. Can we, on the flip side of it, put the map of where the actual lighting district
map?
is?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, just a visual
map?
for people.
This map.
Yeah.
It's on that side.
Yeah,
Good call.
good idea.
Good call. We know you're here for something.
She's good for one every now and then.
All right, so just to close off the section, any other public comment?
Apologize. Nope, nobody requesting via Zoom, no emails that have been received or comment cards.
Perfect, and I do believe this was the last section where we would invite public comments, so we'll move on. Item number 6 on the agenda. Next meetings, so this is the except of September 8th, 2022 and September 29th, 2022 and October 20th, 2022 minutes.
Yes, if I may, just a very quick announcement that there is an administrative correction made to the September 29th minutes indicating that Mr. Richard Lavin was attending virtually. So that correction will be made and will be part of the record.
Thank you very much. Do we need to have a motion or are we good? All right, we'll have a motion to approve the minutes as it's presented with the staff addition.
Approved. Aye.
Do we have a second?
Oh.
Second.
Motion suggestion carried, seconded and carried. Thank you. All right, so item number 7, update on future meetings and tentative discussion items. Anything that the panel would like to add that we need to be mindful of that the city can add for us on the subsequent agendas?
I have a quick question. Why do we have 2 meetings within 3 days? Are we rushing? Are we on a timeline? Don't we have 2 meetings in the back to back? Like November 13th, 16th, I thought I read? No?
No, I think it
We
jumps to
did-
January.
Ideally, we were having it every 3 weeks, but we do have December 1st and the 15th, December 15th. So those are 2 weeks apart. And then we have the January 10th city council meeting.
Yeah, and I think in part of that is because we do need to give the city council we have to advise, we have to.
So
see
the
our
dates
findings.
was December. I know it's probably on my phone.
Last page.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Good.
Are they back at the teen center?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just comfortable.
We
Let's
can
move it to-
check on the
let's move it to
availability.
Tuesdays as well.
Being here might move the needle forward, just saying.
All right, so just any other discussion items that we need to be mindful that we want as a panel, our city staff here to look at, add on to, or are we good with going on with the timeline as we have and continuing on with the conversations as they stand? Because I think we had it all outlined.
I do have something that was brought forward by the city clerk. I believe that was given to her, which is just historic letters that were from 2007 and 2008 that were found, that just for your review, we can hand out. I'm going to go ahead and share, because we do have a couple folks that are attending via Zoom, my screen so that they can see it. But the first, hold on, sorry. First letter, I'm going to hand this out to the panel now, and this is just for you to review. It's from 2007, and the second is from 2008. And they're both letters that were sent to property owners. Not sure if they were actually sent or internal letters, but we were just able to find these and give them to you for your review to see if that's something that you might be able to consider as part of your review process.
It's only gone up $1.8 million.
Appreciate you adding this for us, and I think we take that home and digest it as need be, unless there's anything or any comments right now that the panel wants to make.
Sorry, just one more thought I had. My neighborhood has a lot of non-resident homeowners. Are we doing a mailing for those that don't live in the area and won't see the sign?
Most likely, I'm gonna guess that it's gonna go to wherever the tax bill would go. Any kind of city document to that parcel would not go to a renter, it would go to the parcel owner.
So should we be sending information before the ballot so it doesn't end up like the last time where people got a ballot and didn't have the information?
Well, you can save 10 of them for my building because my tenants won't pay.
Yeah, it's, Ms. We go ahead, because I think that might.
You're
be slightly
paying
out
for
of scope.
them.
Have to, you're paying.
Thank you.
Yeah. 10 times.
10 times $249.
I did have one other question at the last meeting. I brought up that there's I'm right around the corner from downtown. I'm 140 Bennett. I get a downtown. I want to say it correctly. I get a bill once a year for the district for downtown, and I'm not in the downtown, but I get all their parking, but I don't get any benefits. So
Is that the business thing?
it's a
Business.
business district.
Yeah.
So maybe
I
it's
pay that
we can
bill.
take offline for an hour. Yeah, let's take that offline.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay.
Can I read
Go ahead.
something? I just wanted to, we have a neighbor actually that lives across the street from us who couldn't come to the meeting, but he did ask if I could make a public comment for him. Is now an okay time to do that?
Yes, because I was just gonna say any closing comments.
There it
And
is.
we'll go ahead and include those in it.
Okay, I just typed it up really quickly, so I'm hoping to read my own typing, short typing. He says, and his name is Cody. I think Norris is under, and I don't have his exact address. It's around 557 North Glendora Avenue. And he says, the idea of the streetlights is just an example, another example of what makes Glendora unique. Everyone comes to Glendora and walks around because they consider the neighborhood to be nice and safe and historic. We have an opportunity to preserve and make it even better. Halloween was a perfect example of hundreds of people walking down the street. Let's make Glendora even more magical than it is already. Not to sound melodramatic, but the lights are like a time warp, and it takes him back to the 1900s. Let's not miss this opportunity because the state may not be able to do it next time. Let's see. Another question that he had was residents come up with a quarter of it and the city would come up with the rest of it, or at least 25% of it. And then he says, this may be our only chance. And then he says, Santa Claus wants the lights. And he did mention the Christmas time carriage that goes up and down the street. If we could decorate the lights and do the rides up and down for people to see the lights. So that's his desire.
Awesome. Thank you for that addition. A good sentiment of what some of our residents on Glendora Avenue are thinking. Another resident, Eric.
Yep. That was good, Esther. And I think something like that should be quoted and put into a mailer. So the residents could read this stuff. But I think just from a factual standpoint, and again, I'm guilty of this. I didn't know that I wasn't paying an assessment for lighting because I'm in that, like you said, we're not paying for anything. All the rest of the cities in the District 1 and every single one of those households or businesses is paying for that lighting, right?
If they
Yeah,
have,
if they have it, so I think that's important that the people that are in this proposed area understand that everybody around Glendora in the District 1 with the Edison, they're paying. And it's just, we're going to get our lighting and how we want it, and we're going to pay as well, because that's how it works. I mean, that was very bad delivered, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So they understand, you're not paying anything right now for lighting, but communities as a whole, they pay. And maybe I'm, naive for not understanding, but I mean, right away, I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that the people pay for these things.
I didn't know either.
Yeah. And so if people understand that, then I think, oh, well, I guess it's a cost of doing business. In this case, you couple it with what Esther or the neighbor wrote. I mean, I think that sounds great. And it makes people think that is right. This is the character of Glendora, and we all want this. So let's make sure everybody understands the facts and the circumstances surrounding what we're trying to do. And it doesn't look like, hey, you're going to pay for this because you need to pay for it. And that's it. Because I think that in the past, that's what it was. People thought they were getting put on the hook and my wife is guilty. We're going to pay for this for everybody in Glendora that come walking down our street in Halloween and all that. And I explained to her, I go, no, this is how it's going. She's like, oh. And so then I was able to explain it to her. We can explain it to other people and they'll buy in.
Yeah, I think quotes like that should be blown up and put on our table.
Well, back in the old days when my parents were alive, you sent that to the Tribune.
I'd like to just add to what Eric was saying, though. I think part of our duty as a panel is not only just the outreach in terms of papers, flyers, and seeing people on the streets, but also inviting them into some of these meetings so that they can see and hear the level of work that's being put into this by the city, by the panel, by the people who are interested in becoming a district, and those people that we outreach to who are interested in becoming part of the district can have a chance to sit in the audience and listen to all of this information and hear things in real time, or to offer their support in this same way. So this gentleman has been very interested and contacts me frequently, and he would like to be a part of the meeting. He apologized for not being there, but I've been trying to invite neighbors, and so I would hope everyone feels they can do the same.
Yes, I think that goes to the panel, right? Addressing the panel. So, and I do agree 100%. There are people that can come here and listen to us and ask questions to better, so.
You know, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I just quickly, if the perception was that the city of Glendora had a little skin in the game, however that looks, like you kind of talked about it, the 25%, whatever, just have a little, and I know you guys already do, but the perception is it's like, okay, they're trying to put all this on us. If it was like, hey, the city of Glendora is going to do this, I think that would go a long, long way. And it could be something very little. It's just the delivery.
Well, my understanding will be that could be part of your recommendation to bring before council.
Yeah,
There's one.
I was just gonna say, at the end of the day, we're in advising, we would advise, the
Two
council.
quick things. Most
Um,
people look at their property tax bill and they go to the very bottom total and that's what they pay. They don't look at all the little adjustments, the things that you're paying for. So a lot of people don't even know that they don't pay a street light, or they don't, some people that have a street light don't know that they pay a street light assessment. It's knowledge. Without you knowing that, or a lot of people knowing that, they wouldn't know. They just see the bottom dollar, say, oh, I gotta pay that twice a year. My second question is, before we get to the next meeting, I know we asked this the first meeting, the second meeting, but have we had an opportunity to try to get a bid on redoing the old light?
That's an alternate bid item in the same spec package.
So we're asking the guys that do the underground utilities to give us a bid on or a separate company.
That's up to them to decide. Usually it's a subcontractor, but we do have one subcontractor that is interested, and they were in communications with that prime contractor. So they were going to submit a bid together.
Is that the one that told you he's not going to bid it now?
Nobody said they're not going to bid it now.
Oh,
one that
they
didn't
don't have time to bid it? So is that the same guy? So the city can't go outside of an underground utility person to get the lights, a bid on getting the lights redone to hand to a repowder coated, redone electrical to where they can be remounted onto a cement slab that the underground utility guy is gonna do.
The city doesn't limit who does it. We just make sure to have the proper licensing. Anybody who has the license to refurbish a street light is welcome to bid. The plant holders are public knowledge. So anytime they email me for plant holders, I let them know. They reach out to the main contractors and they work together. It's typical in any construction project. When we do water projects, the guys that do the water lines are not the same guys that do the pavements, but the contractors work together. So there's a prime, and then they submit the bid. They work with their subs. Same situation here. The sub that refurbishes lights, he was aware of the prime who does the electrical. He told me he had worked with that prime. It's the prime who just didn't have time to submit the bid.
I'm just thinking as a contractor, if I was to look at your bid and I seen that those old antique lights that they had to be refurbished and that was going to be part of my bid, I would walk away from that bid too. Because I don't see that being one company doing both those functions. I think the city needs to find a way to find someone to bid on doing the light repairs and handing them back to us on a pallet or on, wrapped up in a blanket bid to redo the light, take the lights down, take them to your factory, rebuild them, re-electrical them, repowder coat them, and then bring them back to us in a box. That bid should be separate than the underground utilities.
So one of the things Alexis has done an excellent job, I will tell you. This is a unusual contract that we are asking to happen. We are talking to both people. We cannot, we have to go out and be fair to all bidders. The way we have it set up now is that the bid schedule, we are going to get bids, and it's, as Alexis talked before, the prime had 10 a.m. in the morning. In the contract world, nobody reveals their prices till 5 minutes to 10 or something like that. It's a game out there. I always wish I could be a fly on the wall when it's happening. And he missed the deadline, but that's part of the public bidding process. When he investigated why it wasn't bid, there was no indication that other than there was not time. He was in contact with this person that would restore and would give a bid for the restoration of it.
I think
So
we
there's-
also have the city manager, Raymond, that's on Zoom that would like to follow up with that comment as well. Adam, are you there?
I'm here.
Yep.
Evening, everyone. Apologies for not being able to be there in person. I have running around kids to various activities this evening. To provide a little context, and I don't know, Patrick, if this was talked about earlier, but one of the biggest challenges is the timeline here, right? And the need to set up an assessment area with the understanding of cost, and multiple bids potentially come out, multiple timelines that don't match with that process. I would also just like to remind the group that that's an alternative bid item. It's not necessarily the thing the city would make a decision on, but definitely seeks there and understanding this group's interest in refurbishment. And at the same time, not all those lights will be able to be refurbished. So I think while some of that may make sense when you think from a logical perspective, from a contractual building code, as Allison was indicating, and a timeline perspective, having multiple bids will not work in this case.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not going to pretend that I have the expertise because this is not where I have a strong suit. So I will defer to John and Adam and of course our public works here. But is there anything else we would like to, or is it just an advice from a common perspective to public works? John?
I was just trying to have more, I was just trying to look forward to our next meeting, having something that we've asked for from day one. You know, sending bids out for one thing is one thing, but sending a bid out for, because I know a ton of electricians. I can tell you right now, they don't want nothing to do with that light.
Well, I was just going to say, have them put in a bid if they want to, but
They want to just do the underground. They'll patch the, yep. And the city's gonna have all the lights delivered to their yard. And I just thought it'd be quicker for us since we've been asking for that, because all the questions that we've been asking is to refurbish the old lights. But if the cost comes back 3 times as much, we've been wasting our time. We're gonna go with the original bid that we've never even seen a picture of what light they want to put up.
So, and I think you're highlighting the exact issue. So the issue isn't that the city may or may not want to prefer that option. It's a recommendation of the body pursuant to the bid. So it's not unusual that you have varied subcontractors on projects. While historic streetlight systems are not the main and the norm anymore, they do exist. And so we've talked to one of the contractors offline who will be, I know for sure, submitting a bid when it's re-advertised, who didn't even show up on the list the first time around, but has previously spoken at the city council and understands that they may do the refurbishment. But at this juncture, and understanding that the advisory group would like to see the refurbishment, but at this point, that's an additive, not the primary objective. And so while that may be disappointing, I think it's important to keep in context that our goal is to try to advance this project as best we can with the input from this group, which was why we've added it as an additional line item. So staff's going to continue moving forward in the way that they are, and we're confident that we will get what those costs are to do the refurbishment. And I think it's important for this group to know that there is no way all of those will be able to be refurbished. There will be a component of new lights with the project.
and I do think that's fair. I mean, looking at some of these lights there, some of them are beyond, but any other questions? And thank you, Adam, for that addition. One thing I wanted to really quickly follow up on, some of an item that Andrea had mentioned is relates to the ballots and mailing out the different mailers. Can we put that on the December 1st meeting potentially to cover that off? I don't think that is something that we need to make a decision on now. That would be something that would go out closer to when we actually put it on the ballot. So I think that's fair, but I wanted to recognize that, so we have it on there. Perfect.
So that would be specifically that you would want to request a review of what the potential ballot would look like.
No, I apologize if I used the wrong word, but a mailer ahead of the ballot that really just goes to all the residences that will be affected to maybe expand the explanation a little bit.
Okay.
And making sure that it gets to the right people that eventually will have to say yes or no. Okay. Anything else that we want to add for the December 1st meeting potentially?
They're
I know,
slowing it
I
down.
raised
know
it
it's-
halfway. I don't know. Okay, all right. Go
Maybe,
ahead.
maybe this is premature to ask this, but the ballot, the ballot itself, is just gonna be something that the 304 residents have to come here to vote? Or are you gonna allow mail-in ballots, or how is that gonna, is it too early to talk about that?
I can tell you just from experience, we've done this both ways so that they're mailed and you can mail it by a certain date, give an envelope, self-addressed envelope so they can return it back if they wish, or attend in person and cast their vote. But they're all collected by a certain amount of time and then the votes are tallied at the meeting.
Okay,
One more quick question, sorry. We're here for this, it's all for the good. I think I've asked this question the first meeting, I asked it the second meeting, and I just want clarification on the third meeting. Is we asked the architect to redraw the blueprints that we looked at from going from the being in the encroachment to being done in the street. Has anything been done on that?
That is also as part of the alternate bid. So we will get bids for both of those options.
When will we see that redraw? At the next meeting?
So as we mentioned previously, we're not redrawing it. The bid schedule specifies to install conduit in the street. However, means and methods are up to the contractor. What's important is that the options are to either trench as shown on the plans on a parkway or trench on the street as specified on the bid schedule.
all right. Thank you, John. All right, well, with that said, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting for the Ad Hoc Antique Streetlight Citizen Advisory Panel at 7 p.m. 7:02.